Today's video is going to be on sector area and arc length. We're going to start by reviewing some stuff that you should already know. The first one being the area of a circle. The formula to find the area of the circle is pi r squared, and we know that r is the radius of the circle, and the circumference of the circle is 2 times pi times r, or diameter pi. These are representing the same thing because the 2 times the radius, well, the length of 2 radii are equal to the diameter. So they are the exact same formula. People just like to look at them from a different perspective. We're going to problem solve with these formulas. So the first one, the circumference of a circle is 20 pi. When we read, we want to make sure that we're always picking up on those context clues. Here it said that we are working with the circumference of a circle. So that tells me that I have 2 times pi times r. And that circumference is. We know that if I say x is 5, that means that it's equal to. So when we're translating from words to equations, is equal. So we're saying that the circumference is 20 pi. What we want to do is we want to use this information to find the area of the circle. So if I want to find the area of the circle, I need pi r squared. The only thing that I'm looking for here is the radius. I need the radius in order to find the area. Well, here, 2 times pi times r is 20 pi. I can find the radius by isolating. So I'm going to divide by 2 pi. 2 divided by 2 cancels, pi divided by pi cancels. 20 divided by 2 is 10. The pi's cancel. So if my if my circumference was 20 pi, that only came from a radius of 10 centimeters. So now we can use that in my area formula. Area is equal to the pi times the radius squared. So the area is 100 pi centimeters squared. So circumference is just centimeters. Area is centimeters squared. Make sure that we have the proper label. All right, the next one, we have the area of the circle is 256 pi feet squared. So again, we kind of problem solve through the area, which is pi r squared, is 256 pi. So those two things are equal to each other. The area, which comes from pi r squared, is equal to 256 pi. Now this time we want to find the circumference. Well, circumference is found by 2 times pi times r. So once again, the piece of information I need in order to find that circumference is the radius. So I'm going to use what I'm given to undo this, to work backwards to find the radius value that gave me that area. So pi times r times squared. I want to get the radius by itself, so I divide by pi. Those pi's cancel. Those pi's cancels. So radius squared is equal to 256. We square root, and that gives us that our radius is 16 feet. Again, yes, it is plus or minus 16, but we can't have a radius that's negative. So we can use that to come back over here. 2 times pi times our radius of 16. Our circumference is 32 pi feet. So we use the measurement that we were given in order to find the measurement that we need, both of them requiring that radius. All right. Now we're going to move into that sector area and arc length. There's a couple things that we want to note. Is what is circumference and what is area? Well, the area of the circle means I'm finding everything inside of this circle. That's the area. The circumference of the circle is the distance around the circle. I want to find just what's around it, not what's inside of it. So the area is everything inside, the circumference is everything around. We need to know that when it comes to arc length and sector area. So we want to start by finding the length of the arc BC. So that first thing there, I want to find the length of BC. Don't forget the basics. We have our center at A, which makes that a central angle. And the central angle and the arc length, or the arc measure, sorry, not the arc length, the arc measure is the same. And that's going to bring us to our arc length. So there is a big difference between the measure of the arc and the length of the arc. The measure of the arc is 40 degrees. The measurement is the distance of it. So if I want the arc length, I want this part of the measurement outside of the circle, which is related to the circumference. So this arc length is what part of the circumference are we looking at? Because remember, circumference is that distance outside of the circle. And circumference is coming from 2 times pi times r. Now I'm not just going to use 2 times pi times r because that's the whole distance around my circle. I don't want the whole distance around my circle. I just want this little piece of the pie. So we can see this shaded in area right here. That's our sector. And that's going to be what piece of the pie are we looking for? 2 times pi times r is the whole thing. Again, we don't want the whole thing. We just want that one little part. So to find the part that we want, it is the arc length, or the arc measure, over 360. So the measure of that arc over 360. And in this case, our shaded region is 40. And maybe you're thinking, why did we choose 360? Remember, the whole circle is 360. So this is, we want 40 degrees of the entire circle, 360. That's how much of the circumference we need. So then we've got 2 times pi times our radius. In this case, the radius is 10. Again, we got that from the circle. From here, I'm going to go directly to my calculator. I'm not going to try to do any of this by myself. The one thing I'm not going to put in my calculator is pi. Pi is going to stay out of the calculator because pi is an irrational number. It's going to give you crazy decimals. So in your calculator, you're going to do 40 divided by 360 times 2 times 10. You're still going to get a decimal, but you're going to math frac it. And when you math frac that decimal, you're going to get 20 over 9. We didn't do the pi, so we're going to put the pi on top of the fraction. So the length of that sector is going to be 20 pi over 9 centimeters. Now I want the area of the sector. So now I want everything inside of that piece of pie, the area. And the area of the sector is part of the area of the whole circle. So if we think back to what we did with arc length, I didn't want the whole circumference, and now I don't want the whole area. I just want part of the area. I want part of the area, and the area is pi r squared. The arc here is 40 degrees. I want 40 of the 360. That's how much is shaded of the area of my circle. Just like before, this pi is not being entered into your calculator. We're going to tack the pi on at the end. It's irrational. It's going to give us crazy decimals. So in our calculator, we do 40 divided by 360 times 10 squared. Once again, you get a decimal. You math frac it. And when you math bracket, you get 100 over 9. Don't forget about that pi. We put the pi on the numerator of our fraction. Since we're doing area, this time it's going to be centimeters squared. So think about these problems before you start making your calculations. Arc length is the part of the circumference that you're looking for. Sector area is the part of the area circle, the part of the circle that you want the area of. And when you look at that, that means that we're using the circumference formula, we're using the area formula, and this is the key that tells us how much of the circumference. This tells me how much of the area I'm looking for. All right, and that is it.